Watch and burn.
Hey everyone, so tonight I wanted to discuss the film Hardware starring Dylan McDermott, and this is half of what I'm looking for in a cyberpunk movie. I love how desolate and dirty and destroyed and how sort of recycled everything looks in this movie. Like everything from how everything seems to be covered in sand to how all of their robotics and all of the technological aspects of this sort of post-apocalyptic society is banged up and bruised and broken and sort of tattered and torn. And I think I said this in my Johnny Mnemonic review, that I like cyberpunk movies to either be like dirty and falling apart like they are in this movie, like this movie has that in spades, or I like it when cyberpunk movies are incredibly clean and they're slick and they have sort of like that heavy science fiction edge to it, where you believe that, you know, everybody's rich and yet everybody's addicted to some weird drug in this super technological world where everybody looks really happy on the surface, but they're not, because they're addicted to said drug, or they're hooked on the idea of like evolving their bodies using technology. And yet, despite how everybody appears to be rich, they're actually kind of poor, or at least morally bankrupt. But my other favorite type of cyberpunk movie is Hardware. This movie, from the first time I saw this years ago, to how they would constantly, I mean, I love how Lemmy and Iggy Pop up in this briefly. I also really like how, like I said, I just like how dirty this movie is. I like how broken down it is. I like how everything feels like everything's just one step away or from one bolt removed from completely falling apart. I like how Dylan McDermott, he seems invested in his hunts out in the world, but at the same time he does sort of seem taxed by it all. Like, I wouldn't say that his character's ever tired, but there is that sense of lethargy there where he's, you know, it's like hot outside, he's got to carry all this shit around, and occasionally he's got to deal with these massive breakout, shootout type situations. All the while, the story of this movie is there's this sort of rampaging, psychotic cyborg that's running around killing people that he has to deal with. And whereas the story is very basic in this, I mean, with a lot of cyberpunk movies, the story is either going to be incredibly detailed, and sometimes even so detailed it ends up sort of convoluted, or in other situations, it's going to be more along the lines of this, where the story is very simple. And like I said, there's a murderous robot out there and it needs to be stopped. But what I liked about this is what I also liked about Kevin Costner's Waterworld was, and sort of how I felt about Bartertown in Thunderdome. Like, there is a sense of community here, even with that pervert hunting McDermott's girlfriend, but fortunately never really goes anywhere. This movie definitely doesn't go anywhere it gets even remotely rapey. There's nothing like that in this, but it still kind of feels like there's a sort of like a fabric that connects everybody for better or for worse, and I just really like that. It feels real. It feels like, despite the fact that society has completely crumbled, people still have that sense of togetherness. And I really like that about this movie as well. But I think my favorite thing was just how broken down and fucking destroyed everything and everybody was in this movie. I think that was my absolute favorite part. I just like how dirty and how dusty and how sandy this movie was. I loved the soundtrack, the score for this, the songs they chose were absolutely perfect. And at the end of the day, any movie that's going to put Lemmy from Motorhead in it, even if he is only in it for the better part of 30 seconds, is going to be a complete knockout success as far as I'm concerned. So I think I'll leave it there. So thank you so much for listening to me ramble for a little over 4 minutes about Hardware from, Christ, I can't remember, like 1990 or so, starring Dylan McDermott. If you like this review or discussion or ramble, whatever the fuck this was, don't forget to do something nice for somebody. You guys are amazing. Have a good night. I just wanted to say thank you for making it through the entire video. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to remind everyone one more time, even though I've probably already done this in the video that you just watched, to please click the like button as well as the subscribe button, because it helps this channel grow. And thank you for hitting like and subscribe, and we will see you guys really soon.